Please don't take the things I say out of context from what they're meant. Sure, I speak a lot about tyrants and husbands and the things they do wrong. Sure, I point that out to encourage and strengthen the one that has to live under them. Sure, I do that. But I want you to know, even when whatever they do, how God taught me with my own husband was this. When he needs you and tells you he needs you, listen. Listen to him. It's me. I am telling you. If he says, I need you, and he has said this to me, for years I gave every penny to ministry. Every penny. I never kept a penny of my own money for myself. And he came to me and said, I need you to give me that money. I need it for the household. He always handled the bills and he always did an excellent job. And I didn't want to. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give it to God like I always do. And that night, oh my goodness, did the Lord come to me. And I knew it was him. I knew he was telling me, Marion, give him your check, all of it. I cried. I cried so hard, but I said, God, this is the only way I have to repay you, the only way I have to show you how much I love you. I can't do that. If I do that, Lord God, it would break my heart. He wouldn't give me any peace, and he come upon me so strong. And he knew, and I knew without saying a word, it was him. And I said, okay, Lord, I'll do exactly what you ask, no matter what I think. And I gave him every penny. Inside my husband's heart, he changed. He changed when he saw that I loved him enough and loved God enough to listen to him. When a man comes to you and said, I need you to be this way and do this, if it is not a sin, your first obligation in doing what is right is in your own home with your own husband and your own children. Ministry out there doesn't mean a thing to God if you don't first take care of your own household. So if you are called and you are able to give to that household, do it. Don't use my videos as a reason to step out in faith, because you may be stepping out when God's not calling you to. Your first call, if someone asks you for your coat, give them your cloak also. And when you tell me that your husband has told you your family needs that, don't do it. Let God deliver you. Let God take the realm. If he wants you to leave, he will provide the way. He will provide a way for your household to have everything. But don't you do it. Don't you think, because I'm telling you, don't use my messages like this. Some of you people may use it to lord over your husbands, to fight them or defy them. That's not what my ministry is about. I'm not against men. I've never have been. I'm not against submitting to men. I've never have been. I love being the weaker vessel. I love being the one to depend upon him to provide for me. I love being the one that he knows how to take care of the bills, and he knows how, because he's very bright. I mean, numbers in his head, it goes. He could just figure out measurements and everything right up here in his head. He doesn't have to use a machine, nothing. He has it. He's got those numbers, and I'm so happy that he's that way. I remember how many times we were being evacuated. We were in this evacuation zone, and we had to leave when we lived near Bradenton. And so I remember God telling me, I went before God to ask him, okay, Lord, where do you want us to go? Because I didn't know where to go. Those things you never know where they're going to turn what they're going to do. And the Lord told me, your husband has decided, listen to him. And so he said he wanted to go towards Miami, towards Fort Lauderdale. And people just embraced us and took care of us there. And when he told me he wanted to go towards Miami, oh my goodness, I could have said a lot of things because everybody was going up north. We were going to be the only ones going south at that time. And we could see line after line of cars, backed up trying to get out, where we had free sailing going straight down to Fort Lauderdale, in the area of Fort Lauderdale. The very motel that we stayed in was underwater just recently. But when we got there, I'm trying to say everything worked out because I listened and I obeyed him when he said on direction. When we go to buy a home, I won't buy a home without him. I don't say God led me to do this and he said this is the one and he said, no. I don't he picked out the city that we live in because God told me, because I said, God, I don't know where you want me to go. He says, he'll tell you. Listen to him. And he did. He picked out the city. And you say, well, my husband, he doesn't listen to me. He sees one. He doesn't see two. He sees one. It is impossible for you to live with a man and him not have God also. It's impossible. He has to have a certain amount of God. Now, you know enough of the word that you know that when he tells you to sin, don't do it. When he tries to bring sin in, then you know that God will deliver you. But don't go against him when he's asking you, I need you. Oh my goodness. Those words from my husband, if my husband ever said, I need you to do this, which he did, he said, I need that check. And I said, okay. And it was the best decision I made because it brought us closer. Above it all, grace and power will be with you when you make the right choice. You could long for something. There are women who are married to husbands and they feel like they're called to ministry. And their hearts just long to go here and long to do that, even long to spend more time with God. And they just don't have it because they have to do this and they have to do that. God, when he calls you, he will call you. You will have that time. The way God called me, you can't even compare it. You can't compare yourself to what God has done with me, that's what he wants to do with you. Nobody can do that. Please don't do that to yourself. Please understand, as long as what he asks you is not connected to sin, it's a cry in his heart that you know you need to listen to. And I'll tell you, you will be blessed like you never saw for doing it. And if God has his desire for you to be in ministry, for you to spend more time with him, for you to do those things, he'll make the way. He really will. He'll make the way. But as long as a person has children, or as long as a person has a husband that wants them a certain place, a certain way, you're not called. You're not called to that yet. You can long for it, and you can think, oh, I've got so much wisdom, I've got so much power. I lived for 40 years knowing and understanding and having all the wisdom that I had. In those 40 years, I would not run ahead of God. People would tell me, why don't you go here? Why don't you? No. If I'm staying right here. I am a married woman. I am staying right here. If God wants it any different, he will change it. My husband grew to like me ministering. He would see people come to the house. He would hear me 24/7, 3 o'clock in the morning, spend hours with souls, praying for them, believing for them, ministering to them. And he became very happy with it. So he began to support me more and more because he saw what I was doing was good. And now he supports me completely in every way. He helps me in everything. Like there's a few things I need and he will get them for me so that I can do better with my he even got me a brand new computer where I could do my videos. You have to be in one accord. You have to understand. Know Jesus Christ. Know him. He would never ask you to go against your husband if your husband needs you to work. If he says your family needs you to work, then your family needs you to work. You don't step out on faith and remove what God gave you. That's please. I'm just asking you, don't use my videos as your signal that you can go off and do as you want by faith. Because that was not what that message was about. There's a lot of people probably using my messages and to apply it to their own life to get their own way. And if they do it in the flesh, it's going to be to their sorrow. If they do it in the spirit, it's going to be good for them. But if most women, uh, even if they're unhappily married, I mean unhappily married, you work that out with God. You don't separate yourself and say, God, he doesn't have God. He's rotten. He's coming from the devil. He's doing this and he's doing that. He can't be coming from the devil. If you're reborn, he cannot do that. Oh, he has problems, and I'm sure that those problems and curses and everything try to affect you. But you have to pray your way out of that. You have to overcome that, and not by destroying him, but by protecting him, by praying for God to put his arms on him and hold him and protect him. When he gets sick, protect him. When he, I do everything within my power for my husband. He's 85 years old and he can no longer take care of me the way he used to. But he loves to do it. He would die before he would stop doing it. To this day, his heart aches because his concern is if something happens to him, what would happen to me? There's never a time that he hears me if I groan in another room. He will say, "What's the matter? Are you all right?" If things get quiet in the kitchen, "Are you all right?" He cares. He didn't always care, but he learned to care because you get love when you give love. God will move for you when you're giving all that you have to where he called you. He did not call you out of your marriage. He did not call you out of your home and your children. He did not call you out of anywhere. He's got his calling, his hand upon you. Listen to what I'm saying, please, and take heed to it. Do not step out in faith in something that you only think you heard I said. Because I didn't say that to you or anybody. Yes, you step out in faith if you are eligible. If I had a child, I'm not eligible. That's what I try to tell everybody. Your first call is to your family. It's not to anything or anybody else. It's your family. Your family is your ministry. Don't you understand that? I pray that people take heed to this